I commend this bill to the House.
Tracy Martin.
Mr Speaker, unfortunately for Ms Wilkinson, her numbers are somewhat inflated because the reason why there might be about $3 billion outstanding at the moment is not because there is a large number of overseas-based borrowers who have been outstanding for a large period of time. It is because there has just been a large number of overseas-based borrowers whose 3-year repayment holiday has just finished, which has upped the numbers, and the fact that the Inland Revenue Department does not recognise these as overdue debts until they are 5 years old. So, unfortunately, Ms Wilkinson might have wanted to do a little bit more study before she launched into that particular diatribe. Mr Speaker, we have attempted to talk sense with the National Party over this issue. We have attempted to get some win-win situation out of this bill. We have attempted to get the National Party to see that it makes better sense to stop a citizen on the way into your country when they are on their way in for a period of time, where they can provide you with a third party, where they can organise to set up automatic payments, where they can perhaps even borrow the money from a family member and pay the debt, instead of arresting them on their way out. Instead of arresting your citizen on their way out, if you actually, and I think Ms Wilkinson has done the country a favour, she has made it quite clear that this is not about collecting debt, this is about sending a message. This is about sending a message. And the only thing I can say to the New Zealanders that are out there, to the New Zealand citizens that are out there overseas, listening to the fact that Ms Wilkinson said that this government is not interested in actually your money, they want to send a message by making an example of you. They want to arrest you at the border, they want to pull you out of a lineup, they want to make an example of you in front of your peers, in front of other citizens, so that other people will be afraid of their government. Now, there are many, many people currently afraid of the national government, but this is just another little niche in that sort of a chain. And all I can say to those overseas-based borrowers is, if you get arrested at the border under this legislation, our website number is nzfirst.org.nz. Give us a call. Give us a call, because we're one of the only parties that will come down there and we'll give you a hand. Because I'll guarantee you that when a New Zealand citizen is arrested at the border on their way out, I will guarantee you at least 1 in 5 there'll be an error from the Inland Revenue Department. I will guarantee you that they will be disadvantaged by this government, and because they cannot see sense. I mean, we don't expect any common sense from the life raft for this government that is the ACT Party, but we certainly tried, sir. We tried to talk sense with the national government. We tried to come up with a win-win situation, but they wouldn't have a bar of it. And now Ms Wilkinson has told us exactly why. Because it wasn't about a win-win situation. It wasn't about getting debt. It was about sending a message. Well, thank you, Ms Wilkinson. Thank you very much. What about the message that's being sent in the House earlier today, sir? We had the Minister of Women's Affairs, I see she's still here, and she was sweating at question time because the opposition asked her to list the things that her department had done, that her government had done to assist women to minimise that pay equity gap. Now, what this government has done under recent legislation is they have taken away the ability to 40-year-olds to access higher education. And that goes directly to women. It goes directly to the majority of women who go back in and take a second chance in their education. This sort of a policy goes directly to minimising that ability for those women. So no wonder that poor Minister of Women's Affairs was so inarticulate at question time today, sir, because we've not been able to find a common sense answer for that either, apart from sending another message to New Zealand women, which is don't go to higher education, don't try to upskill yourself, don't try to minimise that pay gender gap, because the national government doesn't like it. So that's 2 messages we've had today from the national government. And what about the ageism? What about the ageism on the 55 plus? The ageism which says that we are not going to allow you to borrow for student allowances if you're 55, because we actually don't believe in lifelong learning. It's a little bit of a message we put in our brochures, but we're not really keen on it. It's not a message we want to send. And again, we've tried to have a conversation with the National Party. What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of that, sir? We are going to have to make an assumption because we can't get a sensible answer out of the National Party, and all we can assume, sir, is that it's actually about the debt not being repaid, because this is the message we want to send. We hate to think that they might put in some legislation that they'll arrest 55-year-olds or plus if they don't pay back their student allowance. But it seems to us, again, nonsensical when we have laws in this country that, let's say the purpose is that if you're 55 plus and you have a student debt, you have a student allowance debt, and the government doesn't want you to actually be able to access that just in case you die with a debt. Okay, let's just say that that's their reasoning, because we can't figure it out and they won't tell us. Now, we all know in this country that if you die with a debt, your estate goes into probate. So any debt must be paid before any of the estate is then handed out to anybody else. The government's got a backup plan. We already have it in legislation. If this person had a cent on them, the government would get it because under probate there is a debt there. So again, sir, these are things New Zealand First has tried again and again and again to talk sense with this government, but this government is ideologically directed along this path of, there's a word I was going to use that it would not be allowed in this House, is ideologically set on a path to do over its own citizens if it can save a buck. New Zealand First will strongly oppose this, and we strongly recommend if anybody gets arrested at the border, call us, we'll help you out.
Mr.
John
Speaker.
Hayes.
Thank you, Speaker. I have to say that I actually was at the